communication all through units 1 to 5, 1 to 4. But I can say when we talk about unit 5, whatever is needed for you to support your documents, whatever you are writing as a report or any communication related to the technical fields, definitely need something called some supporting evidences and other things, which are nothing but visualizations. These visualizations are nothing but diagrams or graphs or tables that help us to communicate lot of information using bare minimum of words, because technical communication has to abide by one of its important feature called brevity. Brevity is a very important feature to attain precision. Precision is accuracy related to information in terms of the number of words. Rather than sounding complex and difficult to be understood and interpreted, it is always easier to read little of information and get more of knowledge. So, in to attain this as an important feature of technical communication, we depend not only on written communication, we depend not only on the verbal usage of language, we also depend on the non-verbal communication. So most of the times what students believe is, in general, many people do believe that if it is non-verbal communication, it's all about body language. I do understand, but body language is one of the important aspects in communication. It's a part and parcel of verbal communication, but it's not everything related to communication. Non-verbal means without words. Without words is not your gesture or posture alone. Without usage of words, you can also communicate with the help of some other form of communication, like the pictures. So let's have a quick look at the body language, important aspects of oral and visual presentations, the first part of the revision topic for today. Uh, yeah, this has been prepared by my friend. Whenever we talk about this, oral presentations, uh, we go with the number of uh, the letters P, alphabet of the letter P. Analyzing, we plan, we prepare, we perform, right? We practice and then we perform. So whenever we plan the presentations, oral presentations, we need to plan initially. So whenever we are planning the presentation, instead of going ahead and making our presentation, we need to consider the audience with us. Who is the audience with us? To what extent do they have the knowledge? Where, what else should I be providing as an extra point? Something like that should be the analysis. So analysis of the audience should also be considered. But if at all I am presenting, I can think of making my plan to present either to inform my audience or to persuade my audience, because these two are the major categories for which presentations are made. Analyzing the purpose of the presentation. Am I presenting to inform them or am I presenting to persuade them? Then knowing the audience is also a part of my planning. I may not know them unless and until I have not interacted with them. But as a general sense of fact, if I know what is their age group, I can estimate to what extent they are commonly aware of everything I'm going to present about. Based on that knowledge of audience, it gives me a better sense to organize the content of my presentation. So content might be too vast. If it is too vast, it makes no sense in hurrying through each and every part of it and say, yes, my presentation is over. Instead, I wish to make it very, very targeted. I wish to make it very focused. So that is how I can organize the content of my presentation. Apart from that, whenever I plan making a presentation, I also have to immediately think about the modes and means of my presentation. That is, what kind of tools am I going to make use of while making these presentations? What is the methodology? Am I going to give them just what to say a sort of series of questions, or am I going to tell them I am talking about this concept and I explain that and demonstrate that? Or Am I going to involve them in understanding the concept by providing handouts from time to time where I can also see their understanding of the concept and have interaction with them more? Or am I using any cue cards to proceed with my presentation, etc.? If at all you know, you must have seen LCD projectors, OHP, overhead projector, where a transparency sheet is used to project the data or the content of presentation. Handout is something that requires a lot of preparation from the presenter's side, who thinks of who thinks like one of the audience and makes questions related to that, so that the audience can fill the questions and interact with them by handing over the handouts. Cue cards are something I would be using as a presenter for myself, where it gives me a lead to go about with my presentation. Checking the resources available for presentation. Where is it here? The first one. Checking the resources available, including the electronic equipment. Whatever is available, is it functioning, etc. So while important aspects of presentations, oral presentations include your planning part, the first and foremost, and the performing part. So, aspects of presentation, verbal and non-verbal. These are the two components of any kind of presentation. When I talk about the verbal aspect of presentation, I am to consider nothing else but language. What kind of language? How our ideas have to be organized? Because every time it is not humanly possible for even the great intelligent intellectual person to by heart the entire content of presentation and throw it out at the audience, because presentation has to appear like a presentation rather than a by hearted story stuff. Okay, so if at all it has to be spontaneous, if it has to have the natural effect of presentation, one should have a thorough understanding of the concept of presentation in the first place. So the slides are there, already projected on the screen for the audience to look at. There's no point in you people, I mean, in the presenters, in reading out each and every slide. That doesn't make any sense at all. But instead, you can use your kind of language that leaves a marks and an impression on the audience in your own style, dictum, and other things, where you can say how the ideas that you wanted to discuss have been communicated very, very effectively, at the same time, not confusing yourself and also not confusing the audience. Apart from that, using form, yeah, in such a case, people always want to say, because I'm a presenter, I'm at the top. I'm at a level higher than the audience, so I should use the language that makes it difficult for them. After, it's something like in the Three Idiots, if you remember the movie, the virus, the principal, the director, or whoever it is, he sets a very tough paper to fail the students. So that makes no sense at all. So what is that ultimately you want to attain as an objective? That should be considered when you use the language. The main aim of my presentation is to make my audience understand the concept in a simple, lucid manner. So if I choose a language that does not create a barrier in communication, definitely it's going to help them understand it better. Of course, while doing that, while trying to enhance the understanding ability of the audience, I may choose to use one of the non-verbal cues along with the verbal aspects of the presentation. So, sequencing your ideas is important. Using the appropriate linkers is important. Using high sounding formal words that would, threaten the audience, or that would unnecessarily create a greater distance from the speaker, to be avoided. And jargon is something which I have mentioned, I think I remember having mentioned in our previous discussions. Technically related terminology is nothing but jargon. What we say is vocabulary in simplistic words. Fine, vocabulary is simple, but when a particular word appears within a particular branch of a study, it becomes a jargon. That is where, if you are using your jargon, you should know as a presenter that The audience has been introduced to the terminology prior to your usage. Otherwise, it will be a question mark. Anything that is not clearly understood will remain a question forever. And in general, in our context and situations, the speaker only has to analyze everything and think from the listener's perspective and present it, because most of the time, majority of the cases, 95% of the listeners never question anything. Then the second part of the aspects of presentation is the non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication refers to interaction among people with or without the use of words. So, if I don't use words, how do I communicate? Well, you can communicate without the use of words excellently. How is it possible? Using a picture, you can communicate something. That's something related to support of your presentation. But without words, with the help of the body language, I can communicate far better than verbally. Sometimes actions speak louder than words, right? Any present, see, we aren't trained in the non-verbal usage, but still majority of us have to have that, without our sense we make use of some kind of gestures. Sometimes looking at the gestures made by the speaker, others begin thinking that he is a weird speaker. Why does he use such kind of gestures? Because they ignore the fact that they should complement and support the presentation rather than contradict with what the speaker is presenting. Use of positive body language is one of the aspects. Use of visual aids, paralinguistic features. So I think I have given you more points related to this. Fine, no problem. Use of visual aids. Visual aids should support a presentation but not replace it. You cannot say, see, I have projected a visual aid. Have a look at it, and the entire presentation is represented in the visual. If at all that is the case, you should say share it on email. Then there is no purpose in calling for a presentation at all. Visual can only supplement, support, but not replace a presentation. And while using the slides, ground rule is you should use a slide for not more than 2 minutes. So 10 minutes you cannot struggle with a single slide and keep discussing. As you present a slide, you should either give some little time to the audience to read through it, or just remain silent for a minute and ask them to look at you and start explaining it. And they should be simple rather than quizzical, or what to say, puzzle like things. Then you have some other aspect of the other aspect of nonverbal communication is also about paralinguistic features. Paralinguistic features refers to those that are beyond language. They are beyond language, but they assist in improving your language use. So when you speak, sometimes you may question, sometimes you may tone down and say, sometimes you may shout in excitement, some or the other thing may be repeatedly be employed by you as a particular technique. While doing that, you try to bring some kind of modulation in your voice to message in an emphatic manner, or to describe in a cheerful manner, or sometimes in a very boastful manner. That all will be done, communicated with the help of your tone. So there is one example over here. I wish to go there. Tomorrow has been italicized, which means that a particular word is emphasized, and but not today. The elements of paralanguage include the tempo, intonation, pauses, speed, that is the rate of speed, I can say. Tempo refers to the speed at which the words are spoken. So if a speaker goes on to speak in a hasteful manner, he is either not interested or he is too anxious about, nervous about the presentation. If he speaks at a very slow pace, it doesn't create any kind of attention, what to say, interest amongst the audience. So either ways, it's too impossible. 1 minute. Okay. Intonation refers to the modulation of the tone. Whenever you want to emphasize on a particular word, you either tone down or tone up. That is rising tone and falling tone, we call it as. This is the end of the first part of what we supposed to take up today. Not needed this one anymore. Body language is the second aspect of it, second part of this particular topic for today. Why does it take so long? Personal appearance. I believe I don't want to go ahead with each and every slide over here, but I would like instead to go ahead with, in general, just to put it in a nutshell, what are the important features that make us feel uh, body language is important. Body language is a concomitant of your language, verbal aspect. So whether you want it or not, without your sense you exude some or the other kind of movement associated with the body. It could be a head nod, it could be the way you look at a person, eye contact. It could be something like how you appear, the physical appearance or the personal appearance, you may call it as. How you stand, either you stand erect or tilt or sidewards, or take the support of a leg by touching it on the wall and speak. And apart from that, whenever you are into a discussion, usually you try to make use of your hand movements, that is called a gesture. So whenever they say you, a question that arises generally is, how is body language important, or how is non-verbal communication important in making one's presentations effective, or how does non-verbal communication support technical presentations in making technical communication effective. When we talk about this, generally the main focus for us is about technical communication. When we are talking about technical communications, what are the different forms and shapes it can attain, of which where presentations become a major part when somebody is presenting in a conference or seminars or something like that, or in oral kind of interactions or professional presentations. It is mandatory for one to check the body language. So when we talk about body language, it is an aspect of non-verbal communication, a communication that is devoid of words but still contributes significantly to presentations is non-verbal communication. So this includes some aspects like body language that consider that that has the categories like the personal appearance, gesture, posture, and the types of gestures that can be considered with each and everything, eye contact, pauses, everything, paralinguistic features. So I just want you to write a short, if in case the examiner wants, in the external examiner, it has been questioned repeatedly. How would you write a short note, or if it is given for 14 marks or something like that, how does body language contribute significantly to presentations? Some people write whatever is known to them about body language, but the question under discussion is you are not relating it with the given question. Please understand my point. Everyone knows to write some or the other thing about body language, but no one knows about the importance of connecting both the parts of the question, both the parts of the responses together. So, how would we do it? This is how it can be done. As I told you initially, you start with presentations. Why and where are they used? In the technical fields, why are they very, very important? How do they attain significance? What are the different aspects that can definitely enhance your presentations? If we are talking about that, body language is or non-verbal communication is a part of it. Okay, so what is a posture? As I told you, how one sits, how one conducts himself or herself becomes something called a posture. So, what kind of posture do you consider as a very confident kind of personality? So the posture refer the confidence can be identified when somebody walks straight, somebody is poised, very very well balanced emotionally. Somebody has a proper eye contact with each and everyone. Somebody uses gestures, that is the hand movements, not in a jerky manner but in a very composed manner. In fact, an open palm gesture is known to ascertain a person's honesty, something like that. So, posture, gesture are a part of it. What is a gesture? What are the types of gestures? Do you remember this class was taken in the conference hall, right? So, what are the different types of gestures? Enumerative gestures, descriptive gestures, locative gestures, symbolic gestures, emphatic gestures. These are the different types of gestures. Then, facial expression is also a part of your body language. What kind of expressions can be understood? I mean, how can you emote with the help of your face? Anger, disgust, desperation, pleased, excitement. Your eyes reflect all these features with the help of your face. Contempt, disgust, fear, sadness. You can make out whether, see, by looking at some, why did you put a long face? That would be that would be a statement from somebody if they observe you being very dull and lost in a thought or something like that. Eye contact is essential to let others feel that you are there with them. People speak without eye contact, that they should not be trusted. If at all they are trying to evade eye contact with you people, eye contact with their audience, then you can understand that they are avoiding you. It's a means of gaining feedback. See, it helps you to establish a rapport with them. It helps you to understand whether or not they are following you. It also helps you to know what kind of feedback is given by them involuntarily about your presentation, so that then and there itself you can modify it, alter it, etc., so that you can do the needful according to the feedback generated. Remember, we are talking about all these aspects pertaining to oral communication, where an immediate feedback can be generated and it helps the speaker to mend his or her ways of presentation. Fine, then these are different postures related to gestures. If somebody is scratching the head at the back and trying to listen to you, then they are making fun of you. They are not considering you seriously. So, contempt, a mouth cornered like this, like if she feels she is very great or proudish, something like that. This also is one of that. Reckless. Then proxemics is also one important feature, space distancing. What is a space? Why do we need space? This is a common term with all of us. Everyone says everywhere, I need my space. Don't barge into my space. This is my territory. They draw a circle around them and say, this is my territory. You don't have an entry point over there. So, how do you maintain this space distancing? What does it signify to us in presentations? Fine. Presentations are made to a small group where you have people seated at a shorter distance. But in spite of that, you can choose to what to say, maintain a kind of distance with your audience. If you really want to show that you're the authority or the boss, you can just remain aloof and complete your presentation. If you instead, if you want them to be with you all through your presentation, that is when you have planned to give them some kind of handouts or other things, you can talk about, you can mingle with them, interact with them by walking around them, by talking to them. That is that uses lesser space, so you can try to establish better relation with them. These are the four types of space distancing. Intimate distance. This happens only within a family. Personal distance. When friends meet, they don't fall on each other and speak. They maintain a certain good amount of space between them. Social distance for these group discussions, public speeches, and all. Public distance is used by politicians only, both mentally and physically, I can say. Only they need, at the time of voting, they speak so much. And of course, touch, haptics is another feature related to body language. It must be there in this CD. No, PPT. Let me check. These are the four types of distances. What do we call the distancing as? Proxemics. The study of space distancing is called proxemics. It indicates whether a person is able to, you know, get his or her message across by maintaining the right kind of distance, because it also helps the speaker to establish a rapport. And depending on the mode of the presentation and the purpose of presentation, he could use a social distance or a personal distance. 46 to 76 centimeters, 1.5 to 2.5 feet, or 4 to 7 feet. So, depending on the purpose of his presentation. Then, touch is a major feature of communication. One of the important aspects of communication is also touch. Haptics, we call that as haptics. We can relate it to, what to say, animals better than human beings, because animals show their affection by dogs, especially wagging their tails. They want to touch you all the time. They want you to hold them all the time, so that communicates without anything. Also, just a small pat on a small kid, if he has got a first prize in running race, will make a lot of difference, right? Even if he has lost the running race, just a small pat, keep it up, no problem, you can win it later. That makes a lot of difference. It conveys the empathy you wish to show. A professional handshake is also an important feature of the haptics, and it should be. The other day, I did it with one of the first benchers in the classroom. I said, handshake should be friendly but not authoritative. You know, Hitler's and dictatorial attitude was represented when he used to put his palm up and the opponent's down. That should not be the thing. It should be firm, not a loose shake. But at the same time, it should not be bone crushing. Chalo, let's see what's paralanguage. Pitch, tempo. Pitch, how do you initiate? The volume of the voice, tempo, speed, rhythm and intonation. Pauses. Actually, pause is missing over here. Pause is something where you stop in between to drive home a point. An appropriately used pause can drive home a point. So, pauses are very, very crucial. For the sake of emphasis, also, people pause, stop for a while. It's like a comma in a written language, in written communication. Okay, now I wish to move on to the other part of it. Just a minute. Information transfer. It's all about visual aids. We have seen a lot of that. There are 24 slides of it. Anyway, this has been dealt with in detail in the classroom. This is not the one I am looking for. 1 minute. Yeah, I would not like to. I will reserve this for the Saturday's class. But any which way, I would like to stop with the guidelines for preparing your visual aids. They are very important, in fact. These are very few in number to start with. Visual aids, the essential features. So whenever you think you propose to use a particular visual aid in your presentation, you should know the purpose of that visual aid. Why are you choosing one form of the visual aid over the other form? Why do you prefer only this visual aid? What should be the contents of the visual aid? How self explanatory should each and every visual aid be? How can a person, a reader, or an audience looking at your visual aid grab the maximum amount of information from it? And apart from that, how does it help you relate to what you're presenting? Because if it is out of context, it only would result in chaotic situation. So, and also, how well does it fit into your presentation? Does it blow out of size, out of proportion than at the actual content of your presentation? Can you do away your entire presentation with the help of only 2 to 3 visual aids without any information presented over there to the audience? Something like that has to be thought about by you when you are thinking about visual aids, the essential features. So, where should they be placed? How many visual aids should your entire presentation contain? You should chalk it out prior, like whenever you think about making your entire, when you plan for your presentation, you should visualize that in your mind's eye. You should also create the notes, the related what to say slide, the notes, the related slide, and how you are going to sync both of them together, both of them appropriately, because they should help you strike a balance between what you speak and what you project. That's something. As such, when we consider making visual aids, we should see to it that they are appropriate to the data considered, the data that is to be presented. They are well labeled and self-explanatory to a greater extent so that you could save that time for your own personal presentation, etc. What are the different types we can think of? Graphics, objects, numbers, and words. Words are spoken by us. Sometimes words are also chosen by us to be represented on the slides. Then we have numbers. What are the different numbers that you have with you? What is the size of the numbers? Would it be wieldy, possible, without any confusion for the people to interpret, read, and understand if you present too much of numerical data? If it is too much of numerical data, how could you classify that? How could you organize that in a hierarchical manner or in a particular pattern like headings, header, subheader, sub-subheader, etc.? If at all needed, do can we use any kinds of objects, the three-dimensional models? Because most of the time certain abstract concepts can be communicated with the help of animation, apart from using the third dimensional objects, not only the virtual objects, the real objects too, so that you can show the third dimension that is available with you, and or what to say, explaining the concept also becomes easier. Then what about the graphics? What kind of graphs do we have? What do they signify? When to use a what kind of graph is also something that which we will be touching upon on Saturday. Fine. If at all, when I talk about the conversion of information, information can be converted from verbal to non-verbal and also from non-verbal to verbal. If at all, I'm talking about non-verbal to verbal, I think I have already given this to you as an assignment. I don't know, I have not received all the assignments. Late submission is there, everything is there still in the Google Classroom. I'm reposting the assignment for second internal. I want you to attempt that and complete it. You may submit it later in any case. Okay. So this kind of question is about the question has to be given to you, right? It's about some manufacturing unit where they just make use of a flow chart. A flow chart that talks about some kind of raw materials, manufactured components, storage, then production planning. Whenever there is a proper design that has been approved, then the production planning goes back to storage to make use of these two materials and starts assembly of the same. Then once the assembly of equipment is done, somebody a test model is produced, somebody inspects. After that, testing is done for quality control check. Once it is through, once it goes through the design phase once again, then if it is not approved, it goes back to the first phase. If it is okay, then it goes to packaging, then dispatch and sales. But while doing all these things, product research takes some group of people work on the product research. They make a design. The design is implemented for production planning, and sometimes from the sales you go back to the sales are not taking place just like that. They go with the help of the market research, and if the market, from the market research, they make use of the advertisements and advertising agency, something like that. Then from there the good is sent to packaging. If there is a flaw in the design, if it is rejected, the market research says it is a flaw, it cannot survive, then the design is dissolved. Once again, it is redesigned. That is how the cyclic process goes on. Okay, this is only one sample that has been presented on the slide. Then there is a web chart. Carefully observe the chart and write two short paragraphs of advantages of watching television with the help of the points given. So I want all the students to write two paragraphs. Immediately, what people have generally set out to do is the entire paragraph is all about advantages of watching television. So whenever we talk about advantages of watching television, we start. They don't give any introduction like thing. Straight away they say time management. It's not an idiot box. What I observed in general is, barring a few handful of students, people pick up the statements from the boxes given over there and they write they say it's a paragraph. So hardly out of 14 marks, they would be given 2 marks. What a big loss to the students. So when you are expanding each and every idea, you are supposed to provide in reality how this health and fitness tips are given away. How do you get one of the advantages of watching television is health and fitness tips. So how do we get to know about health and fitness tips? Earlier, not many people were informed of what is a good health, how to maintain good health, how to stay fit, etc. But these days, even the commercials make use of this concept to promote their good. That is one of the beautiful marketing strategies, you can say. So they talk about health and fitness issues pertaining to the food products, especially with the use of oil. People make good commercials with the help of health and fitness tips. Maybe the marketing agency survives, but it also is reaching out to number of people at the same time, talking about the how to stay healthy and fit. So number of exercises are shown. I mean, people model out the exercises which can be followed by someone who do not want to venture out to the gymnasium or something like that to stay fit. And there are many food channels that also give away how to making the nutritious foods that has more new optimal nutrient value and less carb value, something like that. So if you go by the pizza, burger and all, even that also is healthified these days by means of top additions and everything like that. So people talk about all these things, and that's possible when one watches television. They have some sense about health related food and other things. Up to date knowledge of the world by means of news channels, you can keep up to date news item, up to date in the sense of it's not only the news channels, There are various platforms provided on television for people to present their views. So those things also can be known by means of this knowledge of the world. Curriculum based programs. So televisions are giving out lessons for rural medium students and all. I am not aware of the names of the programs. I forgot it though, but they are still being telecast very much in the morning, so that people can attend that, watch that, and then go attend their schools. You can write more than 3 pages on this particular. Only thing is, you should have the zeal within you to write this number of the amount of writing. That's it. So this is also from non-verbal to verbal. Now it is verbal to non-verbal. You have a paragraph given over there. You should put it in the form of an organizational chart. This indicates a clarity on categorizing and classifying things. As you read through it, you should draw in your mind a clear picture of classification, how one item can be classified further, and how many branches, how many number of branches can be drawn out from that particular category, etc. These are few guidelines related to non-verbal and verbal to non-verbal communication. So with this particularly, I stop here for today. Let's meet on Saturday once again. um, Let me just take out your roll numbers attendance quickly.